There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it has become official. You are listening.
Hello and welcome to Herein Lies the Peace of God in the Awakening Together Sanctuary. The Awakening Together Sanctuary is an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. The host of Herein Lies the Peace of God is Reverend Jacquelyn and Eckert, the President and Minister of Awakening Together. Our co-host is your favorite anarchist preacher, Reverend Glen Ganaway, interfaith scholar. The Course in Miracles says this about discerning one truth. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
Sing glory, glory, hallelujah. How wonderful thy holy name. Now I can see with God's own vision, and I see peace instead of pain. Yes, I see peace instead of pain. I can see peace instead of pain. Amen.
Doggy.
Here we go. Yeah, we're gonna continue with the theme song of talking about pain. I know. How did you feel when you realized we were going to talk about? We're going to spend We're going to spend 2 weeks on healing.
Well, I just got to tell you that at the end of the last section, I wrote easy peasy. So, so it's not hard.
Yeah, so there might be a little bit more to be said, right? That like that get up off your pallet and walk. Do you think
That's
there's
right.
more? There's like more than if you change your mind, you could, you could be free.
That's saying a mouthful, isn't it? If you change your mind, yeah. I mean, because it's not a simple. It is a simple decision. It's not a single decision.
I recently there's a brand new YouTuber I really like. Her name is Khadija Mbao, and she's an academic. She's so she gives like what's the origins of these things, and I like history, and she does a lot of history. She ends every program with, and don't forget, you can always change your mind.
Aw, that's lovely.
It's like when you learn more, you change your mind. If you learn something different about history, you learn how something works, and it's not what you thought, you change your mind. That's what an adult does. You're not wed to an old way of thinking just because you didn't know better. And it was like, oh, that's so gentle. It's so gentle.
Well, and it's the recognition of the choice. I have a choice now, and I have one now, and I have one now. I mean, it's always the same choice, but yes, it's that consistency. But how sweet. Remember, you can always change your mind. I love that.
I know, I do too. She asks she asks in this section, she starts the question. I wonder if this is the only question she asks, is healing certain? Are you certain is healing certain?
Well, I mean, that's an excellent question for certainly for somebody new on the path, because if it's not certain, buddy, I'm not giving up everything that I feel
right.
is valuable.
I'm not listening anymore, right? I want I want that promise, right?
Yeah.
It's really so I can. So what's the themes? We opened the song with, I could see peace instead of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And Yolanda and I've recently begun to look at consciously eating, right? We've been trying to look at consciously how different things make us feel, right? How does the second, you want a second cup of coffee or the third or the ninth or whatever it is, you want another cup of coffee. How does the next one feel?
Oh, how cool. I just love the mindfulness.
You know, it was like,
brilliant.
did that solve the want to, and did that solve the thing that you wanted, right? Did that meet the goal that you wanted? You said, you had a
Did
thought.
I want to feel like this?
Yeah, exactly. So we've begun to say, what is the result of my thinking?
How interesting. I love that.
What's the result of, how does this really impact us? So this stuff about healing this last 2 weeks and about about what it is and the choice, it's like, if you knew who you are, it's almost like if you were paying attention, because the peace of God, heaven, or whatever is all around. If it's observable. They say the obstacles to peace. They don't call them the rabbits at peace. That you have to go chase them across the forest and capture them and wrestle them to the ground in order to. No, that's a leprechaun. You're thinking of a leprechaun. They call them, so if you could see them, you could do better. If you know better, you could do better.
Right.
If you understood who you were, you would act differently.
That's right. And I don't think it was here. I think it was in another class or program or something. We were talking about mind watching. Actually, maybe it was in that last retreat that Regina and I did. And I said, the first time I saw this idea of mind watching, it was like, oh my God, you want me to do what? That sounds terribly difficult. I'm not going to do that. But that's where it's at, right? I mean, because it's your choice. It's always your choice where I choose to place my believing attention. And so if I'm not paying attention, I'm going to go into that default mode. And how's that working out for you? How's that feel?
Yeah. And who programmed the default mode? How did we each of us get our default mode?
Well, we had a little help from society and mom and dad and all that. But, all these experiences that I think have happened to this thing that I call, the self. I'm like, well, you touch a stove, right? It's
trauma
not,
mitigation.
I don't do that anymore.
That's what everything talks about. It's like meeting the trauma, meeting and overcoming. It's like what we want all the spiritual paths to. It's the same thing we want alcohol to do, or like drugs or sex. It's like stop, but heal, but make me not have to feel and do and deal with whatever it is that, I need to do to become a healthier person. I don't want to do that. That's
it's the avoidance of pain. It's just
absolutely avoidance of pain. And I think we're all learn the skills of how to, or changing your mind that it's not going to kill you. When did you decide to like not get up and have the ninth cup of coffee? And you go, I know this is my habit, but I'm going to try to go to bed tonight. So I'm going to do an experiment and not choose to not suffer, see what happens. And maybe something different will happen, but, who's going to read? Who should read first? We're a quarter in.
Well, you're going to teach first.
Okay.
How did we do this last time?
It was 3 sections. So I think you read the first one, and I read the big middle part, and you read the end. So I think we both read last week, but this is like 4 paragraphs. So
you want me to read it and then you teach
sure,
on it?
that'd be good. Yeah.
Let's do that. Okay. So we are in, of course, the teacher's manual, and we are looking at the section, I think it's section 6.
It is.
It's not so here. Okay. And the question is, the subtitle, the section is called, Is Healing Certain? So here we go. Healing is always certain. It is impossible to let illusions be brought to truth and keep the illusions. Truth demonstrates illusions have no value. The teacher of God has seen the correction of his errors in the mind of the patient, recognizing it for what it is. Having accepted the atonement for himself, he has also accepted it for the patient. Yet, what if the patient uses sickness as a way of life, believing healing is the way to death? When this is so, a sudden healing might precipitate intense depression and a sense of loss so deep that the patient might even try to destroy himself. Having nothing to live for, he may ask for death. Healing must wait for his protection. Healing will always stand aside when it would be seen as a threat. The instant it is welcome, it is there. Where healing has been given, it will be received. And what is the time before the gifts of God? Let me try it again, because I read it wrong twice. And what is time? What is time anyway? So what is time before the gifts of God? We have referred many times in the text to the storehouse of treasures laid up equally for the giver and the receiver of God's gifts. Not one is lost, for they can but increase. No teacher of God should feel disappointed if he is offered healing and it does not appear to have been received. It is not up to him to judge when his gift should be accepted. Let him be certain it has been received and trust that it will be accepted when it is recognized as a blessing and not a curse. It is not the function of God's teachers to evaluate the outcome of their gifts. It is merely their function to give them. Once they've done that, they have also given the outcome, for that is part of the gift. No one can give if he is concerned with the result of the giving. That is a limitation on the giving itself, and neither the giver nor the receiver would have the gift. Trust is an essential part of giving. In fact, it is the part that makes sharing possible, the part that guarantees the giver will not lose, but only gain. Who gives a gift and then remains with it to be sure it is used as the giver deems appropriate? Such is not giving, but imprisoning. It is the relinquishing of all concern about the gift that makes it truly given. And it is trust that makes true giving possible. Healing is the change of mind that the Holy Spirit in the patient's mind is seeking for him. And it is the Holy Spirit in the mind of the giver who gives the gift to him. How can it be lost? How can it be ineffectual? How can it be wasted? God's treasure house can never be empty. And if one gift were missing, it would not be full. Yet is its fullness guaranteed by God? What concern, then, can a teacher of God have about what becomes of his gifts, given by God to God, who, in this holy exchange, can receive less than everything?
I love all of that. It's quite an alliteration. It's quite an alliteration. So congratulations. She's got the giver gone. That's great. That's why this language is, I think, kind of thrilling to me, because that's all method, right? The course is set up. It's very difficult to read quickly, So
Sure.
you just don't pick it up and go right through it often,
Well, it's that iambic pentameter, right?
Yeah, a lot of it's an iambic pentameter, exactly, just like Shakespeare. Well, she loved, and I always remind people that Shakespeare, all those guys that were translating the King James Bible, they were going to the theater and watching Shakespeare. Same time period, same town, same people in the audience, So just a reminder, and she loved both. She loved Helen Jacquelyn, so she uses all of that. That's a complete lovely. See, I told you, maybe I should just teach a course on the literature of A Course in Miracles. I don't know, maybe.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Maybe that'll happen one day. And I might have to get hired for a professorship for that before I watch that. But my God, first paragraph, and she says, she answers your question right away, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on this. She says, yes, certainly.
Done.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Oh, and she goes, oh, you want to know how long you have to wait?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. This wasn't an actual thing about whether you believe God's capable of doing it. Everything's going to be okay. It's not about you. It's about whether or not you really believe it's going to happen to you, right? It's kind of interesting. She's got the way she's answering that question. That's how she moves through the paragraph. That's the next thing that comes to mind. So she goes, truth demonstrates illusions have no value. right back to the very first paragraph of the very first chapter. What are your goals? What do you want? What is this thing that, what are you trying to achieve? What's this thing what's the agenda? What's the goal? What's the thing? And examine that, to be able to do some critical thinking around that. So the teacher of God, I think of as a knowing presence. So when she says that healing is always certain, and she calls us the teacher of God, and I believe that the teacher of God is this knowing presence within us. When, of course, all of us have but one teacher. What are they talking about? The one teacher, the Wahe Guru, or the inner Holy Spirit that we share in the mind of God. And what's the method of healing? What method of healing do we use? What's the method of healing? We bring illusions to the truth. That implies that we have a place to go. Do we have a touchstone that we can bring the truth to, right? That's usually our friends, isn't it? That's usually a community or a tradition or a way of doing it. It's not always just us, but there's something in us that knows, right? Yeah. You hear the truth and it goes ring. There's something that knows. Yes. So trust in that and evaluate these illusions based on whether they hold that ring true for us. As she reminds us that we're talking about our values. We are talking about what we value. And she goes, am I able to seek correction? If I am, we learned last week, the definition of healing is what? Accepting the atonement for myself. Which means that I'm a part of things. I'm in this. I'm a component of this, food web, of this living thing that is endless and forever. But I'll tell you what, I know what it means to have sickness as a way of life, and I know people like this as well. I've had there periods of time where sickness was my way of life. It certainly was, and to take my addiction away from me, or to take my stuff away from me, would have been very, very, very difficult. She says that sickness is a way of life. And this is all kinds of sickness, because it's like, where do we find that? Last paragraph, where is sickness? Sickness is in the mind. So it's all these kind of sicknesses. It's the ignorance that we just don't want to correct. It's, it's our own mental habits that get us into trouble as well, and the way in the world that it builds. So and she says, don't worry about it. Sudden changes can be shocking. And we know that. Like another part in A Course in Miracles, she says she's not going to hurl you into reality. So don't worry. She's not going to hurl you into reality. And here she says it again. Don't worry. We're not going to shock you into awakening, shock you into healing. Right? That's probably not going to. Spontaneous healing is certainly available, and that's great. Even AA tells you not to do that. Right? No, don't make any big changes in your first year. Right? Because they know that these things this is the way that human beings work. So third paragraph is where healing has been given, it will be received. So what is our motivation for even doing this? I want to be healed. You know what I have to do if I want to be healed, if I want to get better, if I want to get mature? I have to give that maturity to other people. I have to give that wisdom and innocence and joy to other, allow that to be in others as well. Healing has been given when it has been received. And then she begins to talk about the treasure of storehouse, the storehouse of treasures. And it's no accident. And so she goes, welcome healing to have it, to heal, offer it to others. The atonement is this presence of God, is our source of joy. Accept the atonement for ourselves, accept this healing, accept the source of joy for us. And this can only increase, she says. And it's expanded, increase, meaning like it can expand to include all beings. So offer, she says in this next paragraph, to offer the storehouse, but like don't force it. Just as like, just here's the key to everything you want. I'll leave it here on the kitchen table. I'll leave it here on the table. No.
That's great.
No. But I'm not going to go put it in the door for you and get out the treasures and I can't do that for you, right? But I can give you the key, you know. And just it's like planting the seed is enough. Giving somebody the idea is enough. Being the present. So, and she calls this a blessing. And this is what's cool about this. Again, she's talking about this treasure house. And I just taught chapter 23, which is on specialness, which is like what is the inner Christ? I just taught this lesson, and she uses the idea of the wish fulfilling gem. That is, God has given each of us a wish fulfilling gem, and that wish fulfilling gem is an intimate relationship, right? To be known and connected, to be seen, and to be in. Now, I'm not talking about a sexual relationship. I'm talking about being known. I'm talking about intimate connection with another person is a wish-fulfilling gem. And she says it again in this thing, the treasure house is what is given and received when healing occurs, which means we both agree on the atonement. When the atonement is in the room, the storehouse is open. It's the wish-fulfilling gem. And we do that really well with each other. We can learn how to trust each other and do that with each other. And she tells us that one way that we do this for others is through this healing ritual, which is, I think, is about being the presence and authenticity. But in this next paragraph, she asks us it is not the function of is it not the function of God's teachers to evaluate the outcome of it is not the function of the teacher to evaluate the outcome of the gifts. And I'm like, that one really kind of got me. It's like, I do, I want this, I want to be effective. I want to make sure that, the message got across, it's useless. It's, it's not helpful. But, that's why she says that healing is facilitated by trust. And so what are we trusting in? What's real? Our own relationship, our own healing, our own experiences,
That's right.
Our own goals and relationships.
That's right.
It shows this goal is to give and share without conditions or expectations. The gift requires us not to be concerned about results. The gift requires us to leave it alone, or we imprison. If she uses that prison metaphor throughout the course, and she says we're always doing the prison thing, right? We're locking ourselves up. So trust is essential in giving. This trusting in the process, trusting in God, trusting in that I can heal. Really, what it is that I can get better. I can know. I can find myself. I can give myself away. The giver expands and gains awareness and gains presence. And I think this is authenticity. I think she's asking us to be the presence of God, to be the source of joy. Because we even know in traditional, the way the traditional stories are told about the miraculous healings of Jesus. I mean, we know where the woman who touched the hem of his garment, she just knew that all she had to do was get close enough to his presence and she'd be healed. She's just like, this man has got it down. If I could just touch him, I would be healed too, because he's so on it that I would be healed too. That's the presence that they're offering that could be ours, that even the hem of our garment could heal, for those that could see and agree that they're one with us.
Yes.
Right? So that's where she leaves it. She says in basically lesson 181, I trust my brothers who are one with me. Yolanda's getting the tattoo, I think. Trust my brothers who are one with me. We say that a lot around here. So healing, remember, is a change of mind. And so I remember, when did I change my mind? and how that process worked. It was over a long period of time, maybe. And so this is means, so we remember to stop means testing our presence, to stop means testing the gift we're giving us to the world, right? Well, is my presence effective? Do they really deserve to have me? Don't they know who I am? I'm not going to turn on all my charms. I'm not going to be kind to everyone. What will my kindness means if it's for everyone? And she calls this relationship a holy exchange. So either you're involved in the holy exchange or you're imprisoning your brother. That's kind of the way she kind of leaves it here. He goes, either you're offering healing or you're offering a prison cell. Come with me to the Garden of Eden or let's lock you up. That's, one has fawns and one has cops. So I'm going to choose the one with the deer and the deer part and stuff like that. That's what I'm going to do. But I really liked this lesson because it went right along. I mean, I just felt like it went right along with this, the Christ in you, the power of the Christ in you lesson we just did this week on Wednesdays, because it reminded me of that wish-fulfilling gem. The sentimani is what it's called in Buddhism. The sentimani, you're awakened, and God gives you this jewel in which you're able to heal the world from. That's this philosopher's stone in Buddhist mythology. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it is.
So,
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that right in my gym.
It's like we're here with this. What we can do together is way more than we can do apart. But you've listened to me for a while. How did this land for you, Jacquelyn?
Oh, goodness. Well, how interesting. I just loved what you had to say. First of all, that I appreciated. So I took some notes while you talked. So I'll talk about what you talked about for a while, and then maybe I'll actually get to the text.
Sure.
You talked about, healing is not, can't be measured by means testing. It can't be means tested.
Right.
And I thought how interesting that was that, of course, the Tao, the phrase that popped in my mind from the Tao Te Ching is, it's talking about how the master is. So it's how the teacher of God is, or right?
Yeah,
How
the
enlightened one is. But it says so that when the master is done, everyone will go, oh look, we did it all ourselves. Which is exactly what's being said here. I mean, all you do is offer the gift. And what's the gift that's being offered? The gift that's being offered is the knowledge that all is well all of the time. Nothing needs to be done. Nothing needs to be different. True peace of mind is just that recognition. I mean, we call it here at Awakening Together, we call it the loving all method. But it's just that recognition that all is well, regardless of how it looks on the surface. So it also strikes me that, and I know that you often emphasize relationships, and certainly Course in Miracles does. But it's really ironic that Course in Miracles does that, because what's the one relationship? Oh, wait, there's no relationship. Wait, is it duality or non-duality? Let me think. I mean, because it's like there's only one thing going on here, right? So, so if it's the awakening, oh gosh, how does NTI say it? It's the dawning of the light in the one mind. So that's all that's going on here. So if I am in the recognition that all is well all the time, nothing needs to be done, everything is perfect exactly as it is. If I am in that recognition, then I am in what we call the right mind. And that light is dawning in the right mind. I mean, the right mind is dawning unto itself, right?
Uh-huh.
But there's no one else to teach. There's no one else to heal. So patient, and I appreciate it because it gets a little mixed up here in this particular reading, but patient and physician are one and the same.
Yes.
So once it's given by me, the gift is received. There's no one else to teach. So it's just, again, it's just, the light just got a little bit brighter, for all of us, because there is only one mind or one being or one essence. So it's really interesting, because I pointed out, I drew a little arrow in a little circle around this sentence here at the top, because it's so convoluted. This sentence: the teacher of God has seen the correction of his errors in the mind of the patient, recognizing it for what it is. I mean, you want to talk about language? That's
How
like,
many
wait,
its?
what?
How many its are there? There's yeah.
How many hymns
Recognizing
and
the
its and
correction.
his and
Uh-huh.
yeah, who saw what where? But again, the teacher of God has seen the correction of his errors in the mind of the patient. So is the teacher of God seeing the correction of the patient's errors of thought? Is the teacher of God seeing the correction of
Both.
the
It's
teacher
both
of
of
God's
those
errors
things.
of thought?
Both of those things, because you can't see, you can't smell it if you have, you can't see it. It's projection. You can't recognize it if you don't have it.
It's very interesting how that sentence is written, particularly given that we're talking in dualistic terms about non-duality.
Yeah. She makes a circle.
Yeah. She does.
She
Woman
completely. She goes all the way. The grammar goes all the way back to the subject.
It does. It absolutely does.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
Of course, the next sentence in that first paragraph is clarifying. Having accepted the atonement for himself, the teacher of God, he has also accepted it for the patient. Again, there's only one thing going on here. There's not two minds. I don't have to convince you, separate being over there, who thinks different than me. There's just one mind. So once I've accepted that, and that, of course, that's why, the sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for oneself, right? Because
see, yeah, that's true. I heard that as like, when we don't, if you're arguing, you haven't done that. If you need to convince somebody,
yes,
then you haven't done that.
I hear that.
So it's like, me, I have to catch myself. See, that phrase helps to catch me trying to argue for the truth.
Yes, exactly, which is exactly what's being said here. I mean, honey, if you think you have to argue for the truth, who are you trying to convince?
Yeah.
Just let me ask you, who is this other you're trying to convince? So yeah, so just the embarking on an argument, right, on a defense of the truth,
Mm-hmm.
is a denial of the truth in itself.
Really.
Yeah. So let's see. Let me look at some of your questions I wrote down. I'm going back and forth between my notes and the reading. How long do I have to wait? You asked that question. I mean, but it's obvious here that she's answering that question, even though maybe there's somebody in the room hollering it to her. But how long do I have to wait? No time.
Yeah, right.
No time. The only question is, do you trust the truth? That's the only question in all of this. How do I know it's going to be received? When will it be received? What do you trust the truth or not? And frankly, she may not say this, but frankly, if you don't trust all of this is true, that it takes no time, that it need not be received in any certain way, that the individual won't be able to recognize. If you just don't trust all of that, then what you're teaching is likely not the truth anyway. I mean, it's really just that simple. I love here how she equated, again, I mean, it's the same thing that we're talking about. She equated the giving with the receiving. It's not the function of God's teachers. This is third paragraph. It is not the function of God's teachers to evaluate the outcome of their gifts. It is merely their function to give them. And I love that you emphasize that. I mean, when do you we talked about that recently, maybe in one of our Something Genuine talks. Giving love is the one function of a teacher of God. And when you give love is, hey, Ryan, when you give love is when you feel that love. You know, Nirmala has that article about love is for giving.
Mm.
If anybody wants to read that article, it's on endlesssatsong.com, Nirmala's website. But he's like, how do you know that it's not the receiving of the love that makes you feel love, right? He's like, well, what about unrequited love? You still can't eat, you still can't sleep, you still can't think about anything but the person that that you have this love interest in, whether they're loving you back or not. So it all comes from here. And if we're healing the one mind, if I'm healing the one mind by giving that love. You know, you can be like flipping me off or, knocking me over the head or whatever as I'm giving that love, but I'm giving that love to the one mind. And the fruits of that giving are felt here with me, certainly first. And the other person may or may not accept that gift, but I have already enriched, as if such a thing could be done, enriched the one mind just by exuding that by giving.
It is.
But let's see what else she says in that paragraph. Oh, or what you said. I already made that point. I wanted to say, then she says, trust is an essential part of this for the reasons that we've been talking about. There's nobody else to give to. So you trust in the gift and then you give it. And so you experience that, but you don't have to worry about whether the other person gets it because there's no other person. She says, who gives a gift and then remains with it to be sure it is used as the giver deems appropriate, such as not giving, but imprisoning. And I can't, every time I read that paragraph, I think of, can't think of Charles's last name, master teacher, they called him out there at Endeavor Academy.
Okay.
And he would say, you don't give money to the guy begging on the street and then go make sure he doesn't buy alcohol with it. That's not a gift. Well, are you sure that's, you sure you're buying food and not alcohol? And that's, for me, that's lovely. It's none of my business what happens. I am because that's not giving. Giving is like the guy that I see on there. I don't care what he does with that money. He says he needs money. I got money in my pocket. Here. That's love. That's giving. That's extending. Anything else is like a bargain, which the ego loves. That's all ego does. The ego never gives. That tells us that we give to get. Ego gives to get. Here in Course of Miracles makes that clear.
I just want to point out that that's also a sitcom trope. That's a sitcom trope where the mother-in-law gives the gift and you have to bring out the gift that the mother-in-law brung or that every time they come out. That kind of giving is a sitcom trope. That's how well we understand these concepts.
Oh, we're clear on them. Yeah.
These aren't new. I just want to remind people that we're learning how to think about these things differently. We're learning how to use these powers or use these concepts to change our minds, to change our lives, to offer them for healing for our own minds and the healings of others. So it's like, think about it. It's like, oh, how do I give? How do I give anything? How do I give anything?
And it's an excellent question because we are so programmed, in the ways that we're programmed. Shoot. You don't want to get a gift from a friend at Christmas time and not have one for them in return. Oh my God, that's awful. It's like it's never considered
Right.
that it might just be that they are giving of themselves and it makes them feel good to give to you.
And you
That's
have to
not how
spend a
we
certain
do
amount on a gift, right? You have to spend a certain amount on the gift. You have to make sure.
It's crazy.
We totally have every culture has norms around gift giving. And, like a Japanese culture is going to be different than an Ethiopian culture that is going to be, Uyghur or whatever. It's just each of us have different traditions around giving. So we all think, we're all trying to mitigate. We're all trying to do this to give without trying to give in return, like get in return. All of those traditions teach this lesson. We're still teaching this lesson.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, she's trying to teach us something different here. Um, Listen, I also love this part here. One, two, three, in the fourth paragraph. Healing is the change of mind that the Holy Spirit in the patient's mind is seeking for him. Oh my God. I mean, that's just incredible. Um, uh, Regina taught on that the other night. It's not that, well, the fundamental is, it's not that we're seeking God, God is seeking us, right? The calling, comes from spirit. The calling for healing, the desire to heal comes, and if you want to talk about it a little bit more dualistically, it comes from the right mind, right? The call to heal comes from the right mind within the patient, him or herself. And what responds? Oh, wait, the one, the one makes the call, and it's like, as soon as you are, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. It's just consciousness experiencing itself. I'm experiencing myself over here as unenlightened. I'm experiencing myself over here as enlightened. There's no distance between these two. There's only one mind having all of these experiences. It seems to be having it in, 7 to 8 billion different ways. But if healing is called for, the only thing that can offer that healing is the one mind. It's a call and a completion, all in one fell swoop. And that, of course, is why there's no time required for the healing to take place, because the call and the answer are simultaneous. Let's see. Well, which is what she says in that last paragraph, as it turns out. Yeah, she says, healing is the change of mind that the Holy Spirit in the patient's mind is seeking for the patient, for him, she says. And it is the Holy Spirit in the mind of the giver who gives the gift to him. Interestingly, you'll notice that in that last sentence, she says, she capitalizes Holy Spirit. So she's got, it is the Holy Spirit in the mind of the giver who, capital who, right, gives the gift to him. Again, capital H. So it's the one mind giving to the one mind. That's all that's going on here.
But the experience of those two that's also called a polarity. So the experience of that polarity is both of those things. Right, the polarity is healing looks like it's moving from the mind of the Holy Spirit into him. That's what it looks. I mean, that's what it looks like. That's how a dualistic person. That's how a body that thinks it needs to be healed experiences it.
Yes.
All three of those things are happening there. It's a polarity. I love that.
And I got to tell you that's what. I think that was the challenge for Western students. I think that was the challenge that's been answered by A Course in Miracles. And I think that's what makes it so difficult, first of all, to read when you pick it up. When it falls off the bookshelf and hits you in the head, you're like, who's doing what to whom and how? So this book masterfully answers that challenge to teach a mind that is so convinced it's separate that it can't even hear one mind given to one mind. I mean, that it makes no sense. And I think it does it well. And I think that's exactly what she's addressing in this paragraph. So she's like, okay, it's a Holy Spirit given to the Holy Spirit. How could the gift be lost? How could it be ineffectual? How could it be wasted? I mean, she's getting it exactly that point. There's nowhere from, there's not like you have less, I have more, so I've got to make this transfer to you, and oops, it might get lost in the middle. That's not what's going on here.
That's dangerous.
Right, that's not what's going on here. It's one whole. Again, it's the dawning of the light in this one. Oh, I remember now. That's all that's going on. That's all that's going on here. So there is no empty storehouse. It appears, it may appear that there's an empty storehouse when, you see your brother beating up the guy on the street or whatever, right?
Yeah, the propaganda is the storehouse is empty. The storehouse is empty. The storehouse is empty. The storehouse is empty.
Right, and
that's the propaganda.
It's like, and it's just bringing. It's just, if anything, it's the invitation. All you're ever doing when you're offering healing is offering the invitation for your seeming brother to remember the fullness of the storehouse. That's all we're ever doing. Remember? Oh, remember? And because you've had that experience, what it feels like. It feels like remembering. It's like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's always that way. So it's never been lost to you. It's just been, failed to be remembered. Yeah, so why in the world would you be concerned about what becomes of your gift? Buddy, if you're putting it out there, you are awakening the one mind. That's it. It's not, I'm awakening it because it's coming out of my mouth and going in your ears. No, I'm awakening. Yeah, like that could happen, but you get, it's the one mind is awakening. As I sit here and read this book, the one mind is awakening. The light is dawning in the one mind. As I speak to you about it, the light is dawning in the one mind. And not because you're hearing it, but because I'm speaking it. Okay, I think I'm done.
But see, there's intake of breath. There's outtake of breath. That's also a physical experience. It's a movement, and there's tone, and there's like design. It's like I'm choosing my words to get something across. I have an intent. My goal is to be this authentic, to like, if you will, to let the one mind or the Holy Spirit or like God to like express through me, instead of me needing to perform, is the word I use a lot, and me needing to perform in a ritual that is supposed to, according to custom, help me move along have greater social power and control over more assets. I mean, that's the two ways in which this is, which is what is our goal, and all of this healing, all of this sharing with ourselves is in service of that goal of oneness in the world. Or we're going to, and we've all met very, very powerful, charismatic people. They say some of the most powerful people on the earth are very, very, very charismatic people. So there's this healing is the atonement, not getting what you necessarily want or even feeling good. So healing isn't this movement into bliss. It's a movement into knowing and movement into trust, right?
Yes. I mean, if and Course in Miracles says something like, if you knew that everything that ever happened to you was gently planned by one who only had your best interest at heart, it's that sort of thing. But let me talk for just a second about sickness, healing, and atonement. And that was one of the questions that you had said, okay, so what is sickness? And sickness is this belief in the empty storehouse. Sickness is confusion about what I am as creator of this world that I see. What was his name? Ken Wapnick did not like it when people said at one mint. He's like, it's not at one mint. Here, let me tell you what it is. And then he described at one mint. It's a great video.
It is. Uncle Kenny. Call him Uncle Kenny.
But again, I mean, so if sickness is this confusion about what I am, this belief that I am separate from everything that I see and everyone that I see, when the truth is I am at one with everything that I see, everyone that I see, every event that ever happens. There's only one thing going on. It's, you know, it's not a form. There's only one thing going on, right? This fluid energy. That is what I am. So if sickness is the belief that I'm a discrete little body in this discrete little world of all these, you know, nice objects, right? If that's sickness, healing would have to be recognition of the atonement, recognition of the at-one-ment. Listen, there's no, this is not an accident that atonement and at-one-ment are the same word. That is not an accident.
No, I don't think so.
Despite what some folks think. Because the sickness is the belief in separation from everything. The healing is the recognition of oneness, of the fact that there's only one thing going on. I mean, it to me, it again, easy peasy. It doesn't seem hard to me, but that explains why if I recognize this, that's all that I can. If I recognize in the seeming individual mind, that's all that I can give. To be concerned with the outcome of that, to be concerned with, did you get it when I said we were one? Did who get it? Right? It's just a matter of calling out the truth, right? Of recognizing the truth of that statement. I mean, I can sit in this room, and Ramana Maharshi said it, right? It's the greatest service you can give to mankind. I can sit in this room with the door closed and never, ever leave and be performing the function of the teacher of God, which is simple recognition of the one mind.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing else going on here. Okay, I've preached, so I'm going to stop.
I love it, because if that's I believe that. I believe that's to be true. I've tested it out. Because that's how I live my life. That's the trust. I have so much trust in the system, you know, in what I've been told and how I've seen it act. And I've seen it modeled for me too many ways. I've seen and experienced too much uncanny, just flow states and knowing things that I should not have known or had no way of knowing, and doing the right thing at the right time when my mind is in the mind of, is like choosing to think the thoughts with God.
Yes.
That alignment with power does feel like I have grabbed the wish-fulfilling gem and the world is my oyster.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
That there isn't anybody I can accomplish, and just reaching for just walking down and just reaching for my good. We're all over the place. You know, we know those states.
Well, and your good happens to be exactly the same thing as that is my good. I
have to want that for you. I can't want that just for me. I don't get it. I don't get it if I have to want it just for me.
Well, if you want it just for you, again, your fundamental assumption is wrong. You who? But really,
the walled garden. The metaphor in A Course in Miracles is the walled garden.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yes. And there's no such thing.
Right. You can't do it, because she says the
doesn't
arch
know
of
that.
God. There's an arch over the top of it. And God's going, I see what you're doing down there. That's the metaphor she uses. There's an arch over the garden that you think is so secure. It's love that it overshadows and protects you, even though you don't think you need this protection and everything like that. So it's quite lovely. But let me read this conclusion. I'll read my little conclusion here. I remember a time before I found these teachings. I remember the suffering of that young man. I didn't hear until I could hear, or take action until I did. I can remember that God has a plan for the world, and I need do nothing but what is mine to do.
Amen.
I remember when I take action on my suffering that seemed impossible or even seemed foolish. I'm grateful today for the healers that gave me their authentic presence and their wisdom. Seeing this authenticity modeled and gave permission for me to join. The atonement is a healing place. It's where I belong, and it's where we all belong. We are cherished there. You're cherished here. I am learning now to choose ever more skillfully the actions I take, and thanks to the wish-fulfilling gem of my friendships and intimate relationships.
That's beautiful. I felt that. I have no idea what you said, but I sure felt it.
Well,
and again,
yeah.
that's that resonance you were talking about a while ago, right?
We get it. We totally get it. We get it. And it's relax into it. Because we're human beings. We don't, a lot of the stuff we don't have to learn how to do. We have to learn how to not stop doing it, I think.
Exactly. Yes.
But on that note, have any last words, Miss?
Oh my God, I love you guys. I love this program. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. So thank you for the opportunity to be here and do this. Oh, George, thank you so much for adminning. We really appreciate you. We could not do this without you.
Can't do it without you, George.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And
Here
I
we go.
think I'm getting a little better at it.
You're doing great. Thank you.
All righty.
All right. Thanks so much.
And Glenn is going to play our outro because
Okay.
no
All right,
fun if we
Glenn.
don't do
Go
the
right ahead.
outro.
Listening to Herein Lies the Peace of God with Reverend Jacquelyn Eckert and Reverend Glen Ganaway. To find out more about Jacquelyn and to donate to Awakening Together Sanctuary, go to www.awakening-together.org. To find out more about Glen and to donate to the Mighty Companions Ministries, go to www.glenganaway.com. That's GLENGANAWAY.com.
I can see peace instead of pain.
Righty. That's everything.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
And thank you very much.